The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and the Secret Service are not agencies of the United States government. I said that. Now listen to me once again. I was the first person, the first man, the first anybody, man or woman, dog, cat, elephant, I don't care. I was the first who did the research in the law and stood up and told everybody in this nation that the Internal Revenue Service, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and the Secret Service are not agencies of the United States government. Guess what happened? People called me a liar. People said I was crazy. They said, whoop, there's one more thing that discredits Cooper. Don't listen to anything he says. He's not a valid source of information. Remember that? Because I'll tell you right now, many of you listening to this broadcast tonight were among those who said those things about me. You've said it about me over and over and over and over and over again, and every single time you've done it, you've turned out to be wrong. Every single time. Not once have you ever been right. So once again, what's this? About the 4,000th time, you all owe me an apology. You see, I did my research. I don't make statements on this broadcast without telling you. I tell you the truth. I may make a mistake once in a while, but I don't ever intentionally lie to you, and I don't hang on to a mistake like my ego or the world depends on it, because it doesn't. I'm only interested in the truth, and so should you be. Seek ye the truth, and the truth will make you free. Jesus said that. He said that. I listened to what he said, and I absolutely refuse to be a part of a lie, listen to a lie, be a friend to anybody who lives a lie or perpetrates a lie or passes a lie. And that's caused me to have a lot of enemies, but that's okay, because I have a great friend. I have a great friend. His name is Jesus. Okay? He's very happy with the fact that I'm trying to do what he told me to do. Years and years ago, when I first started looking into what's happening to us, I knew there had to be some reason that all of this is going on. And I knew that none of it could be found in the Constitution for the United States of America. In fact, it's all unconstitutional. It's foreign to the Constitution. It is, in fact, repugnant to the Constitution. It is, in fact, treasonous. And every time that I got into the research, I came up against two walls. One was the Civil War, and a lot of the things that the United States government did during and immediately following the Civil War in order to subjugate the rebel states, and in so doing, subjugated the states that were a part of the Union that was fighting against the South. And I'm not drawing any conclusions about who was right or wrong in the war between the states. I'm telling you that that was the first place I came up against obstacles where I understood clearly that things were happening then that were treasonous and that were repugnant to the Constitution. War be damned. You see, the Constitution doesn't give the president any powers during wartime other than the suspension of habeas corpus, period. Period. He can't suspend the courts. He can't suspend the law. He can't suspend the Constitution. The only thing that he can suspend, according to the Constitution, is the writ of habeas corpus. And only so long as an emergency exists. So all these things that were done in the name of expediency because of a national emergency, because of the Civil War, because of wartime, because of World War I, because of World War II, because of the terrorist threat, whatever it happened to be.
Good old George Bush.
If they exceed the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus, it is unconstitutional and unlawful. Now, a lot of these things occurred. A lot of them occurred during the Civil War. A lot of them were remedied after the Civil War. Some of them were not. One of the things that was unconstitutional, that was implemented during the Civil War, and the IRS quotes now as their legality for existing was that there was a Bureau of Internal Revenue formed during the Civil War to levy an income tax. An income tax, as the United States Supreme Court later in the 1890s ruled, was unconstitutional, as everybody knew it had to be eventually anyway. So when the IRS tells you that and gives that as their history, if you know the law and you can bring out that Supreme Court ruling, you can say, guess what, bud? You can't stand on that. Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. Hey.
I want my money back.
A lot of other things occurred. But the most heinous was in 1910, the creation of the Federal Reserve System, and then in 1933, the Emergency Banking Act, whereby the United States secretly declared bankruptcy and reformed the government under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who pledged as collateral for the bankruptcy of the United States of America all of the resources of the United States of America, including its human resources. And that's the first time that the government required a birth certificate issued to every child that was born thereafter. When you filled out that birth certificate and sent it in, they sent it back to you. And you had to accept it and send it back to them. When you did that, you entered into a contract pledging your children as a corporate entity against the debt of the United States of America toward a future date when there would be no money, and all instruments of credit, all tendered payment, would be nothing more than money loaned. A Federal Reserve note is exactly what it says. It's a note. It's not money. Has nothing backing it. Nothing of value changes hands. You are paying for what you purchase with a promissory note, a promise to pay. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Federal Reserve. And so does anything that you purchase with it. It says legal tender. It doesn't say it must be accepted for all debts, as the old money used to do, that really was money backed by gold and silver coin. Now, I know you don't understand all this, and I'm giving you a quick historical background so that you have some inkling of what I'm talking about when I go a little step further. When they did away with real money, ladies and gentlemen, the entire economy of the nation became based upon debt. No dollar enters circulation ever that was not borrowed into circulation. No payment is made with any so-called Federal Reserve note because nothing of value is tendered in payment, and therefore payment is never made. But it is legal tender. And here's how that works. This is how the Federal Reserve steals all the property in this nation every day. You go to purchase something, they say it's going to cost you so many dollars, but dollars do not exist because in the law, dollars are defined as a certain weight and purity of silver coin. Since gold also has value, gold can be denominated in dollars if it has a value equal to that many dollars in silver coin. Since there is no more gold or silver coin, and since a Federal Reserve note masquerading as a dollar has no value whatsoever and was loaned into circulation, cannot be redeemed for anything, it is now called legal tender and not money. In other words, you can tender it in payment of debt. It does not have to be accepted if somebody understands what money really is. But Americans have been so dumbed down, they have no conception. So when it's accepted, when it's tendered as payment for an item, You take possession of the item in lieu of the true owner, which is the person who owns the note and who has promised to pay, and you pay some kind of a fee every year or every month in the form of taxes or registration in order to be able to use that property. And the minute you stop paying those fees, property tax, hey, register your automobile, the minute you stop doing those things, guess what? You cannot drive it. You cannot have it. If it's property, the sheriff will show up on your door sooner or later with a writ to repossess the property, evict you, and they will sell the property at auction.
Happened to me.
And you won't get a penny. Even if your taxes are only $100, they'll sell the property for $100, and even though you have already paid $100,000 for that property, you will not get a penny. Even if they sell it for $100,000. Why? Because you don't own it, you never did. You never paid for it in real money.
Ouch.
Now, how do they con you into becoming, ladies and gentlemen?
It's all a big lie. It's all a bunch of shit. It's fucking evil. Devils.